Hey guys, it's Inigo, and thank you for joining me today. So today's video is one that I promised, and it will be a storytime video recounting my situation that I've been in housing-wise for the past, I've moved of course now, but it started back in March of 2018. It's been quite a story, and I wasn't able to talk about it that much when it happened. And today we're gonna get into it. But I also want to tell you a little bit about my plans moving forward. So first off, I'll be going to Canada for the holidays, and it's something that I've really been looking forward to, and but it's also, I don't like Christmas very much, as a lot of you might know, but I think it will be very good to spend it with Derek's family, and hopefully I'll be able to get a lot of pictures in the snow to share with you. I have been working forward a little bit. The past 2 weeks I've been filming quite a bit of videos that I still had to do, but also just things that I want to be releasing. I don't know what that sentence meant, but content is coming. I will be starting in January to kind of get back to my usual schedule, at least that's what I'm attempting to. And by that I mean my release schedule. But first I want to build up a bit of a buffer like I always used to have. So there is a roleplay video coming out very soon though, so I'm excited to share that with you. And this week I'll be going to my dad's, which isn't really super exciting to the point that I have to mention it because I go there quite often nowadays. But one of my dad's dogs, Fender, he got really sick. I was dog sitting him about 2 weeks ago, and he was already really sick then, and we went to the vet and they gave him antibiotics, but didn't help. He was just like in constant pain, and he kept like licking his paws, and he was really snappy, and I didn't want to walk. And it got worse and worse to the point where he wouldn't even want to eat, not walk at all. And it turned out that he could possibly have an autoimmune disorder. He's on prednisone right now. He's doing a little bit better, but I would definitely appreciate if you could keep him in your thoughts, because seeing your furry child in pain is it's not fun. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest because I'm really worried about Fender, and I hope he's okay and will be okay. I'm kind of nervous to make this video because I'll be talking about some serious topics. But let's just get into the story time. So, I moved to my former place. It was over 3 years ago now. And I was looking for a place. I couldn't find anything. It's always been hard for me to find a place because I live in the most densely populated area of this country, and it's already extremely densely populated, so we have a real shortage of homes, and I could never apply for any sort of program because it's really strict, and like even if you're on the streets you basically can't even apply for like urgency or anything. It's it's hard, but eventually I found something online on basically like the Dutch equivalent of Craigslist, and it was in a city, not the city that I grew up in basically, but it was in a town like an hour away or something. Well, an hour by bus, like a half an hour by car. And I found this room. It was an attic room, and it had its own kitchen, but it shared the bathroom. And I went to go look because it was a good price, I could afford it. And I eventually was picked, and I was really happy because I really, really wanted to move out. I was stuck back at my parents' place before that. After a breakup, I moved out of the place that I was living with my ex-boyfriend many, many years ago now, and so I was really excited to get back on my own. I think if you've ever been out on your own and you have to go back to your parents, it's like the worst thing because you already kind of have your own life and then suddenly you have to live by your parents' rules again. It's not ideal. So I was really excited. It was a nice room. I'm not gonna lie, even though all the issues that I've had there, I was quite happy living there. I really liked the town, and eventually I got a really nice job at the thrift store, the volunteering job, and I was just really at home there, despite the issues with the landlord. So the landlord, he made a lot of promises, and he was really, really bad at actually making good on them. So for about 2 years, the internet from the router below, which was included in the rental price, wouldn't work properly. Like the Wi-Fi wouldn't reach all the way up to the attic. So eventually he had gotten a really, really long Ethernet cable and let it go outside through his outside door, like up over like the backside of his house had like a glass ceiling. It was like draped over there, and then eventually on the third floor where I was, it came in through my window and plugged into my PC, which is absolutely ridiculous. And an issue with that was that I couldn't ever close my window fully, and especially when the heating wouldn't work in winter, it was pretty annoying. And the heating would not work for a lot of the times, and I would have no warm water and all sorts of issues that really compounded, and he would always kind of make me feel bad for like asking him to help out with it, even though I'm paying for it and it's quite literally his job. So for the first period that I lived there, he was living there too in the house with his daughter, and after a little while he moved out to live full-time with his girlfriend who lived a couple streets over. So for a time I lived there with just his daughter, and his daughter I never really had any real problems with. She wasn't my friend, but I didn't have any personal issues with her, besides that she would have parties pretty much every weekend, being extremely loud. If you've been watching my videos for the past 3 years, you might have probably heard her in the background because her and her friends would make a racket all throughout the night often. But, you know, that's not like a personal attack, right? It's just people being loud. That's kind of life unless you live in the middle of nowhere. So, and then eventually she moved out as well, the daughter, so I had the house for myself, but I could still only use my own areas, basically. Let's see, what happened next? What happened next was, I think, the toilet breaking. I woke up middle of the night, it was like 2 a.m. to water rushing downstairs. And I realized that the toilet was overflowing. And I don't know I think maybe this was still when the daughter was there, yeah. I don't recall entirely, but I couldn't get the water to stop. It was just like spraying out of like not the toilet itself, but like the thing to the back. It has like, it fills up with water, like the basin. that wouldn't stop. Normally it stops when it reaches like a certain point. It wouldn't. So it was like stressing because the whole place was starting to overflow. If that, goes on, then it will get like water damage downstairs. I didn't want that, obviously. So I called like 911. I was stressing, and eventually they sent the police because the fire department didn't want to come for it, and they like closed off the main thing, which I didn't know how to do, but it was fixed for then. But the landlord refused to fix the toilet afterwards, so I would have to use the one all the way on the ground floor, which is quite a little bit annoying if you live in the attic and there's no lock on it, which was fine when I was living there alone, but eventually someone else entered the picture. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. So what happened then what happened in March of 2008 was that landlord was in the house. He called me downstairs and he was like, I want to sell the house, so I need you to go. I need you to leave. I want to sell it. I don't want to sell it with you in it. So I was like, okay, that's reasonable, I guess. I don't know. And he wanted me to leave within, I think, like 2 months. It was then. So after, it was kind of like suddenly like, okay. So I didn't really know what to say, but then I thought about it a little bit. I was like, well, no, I'm not gonna be kicked out. I can't find anything on such short notice, so I don't accept. And the law regarding renters in Holland, if you're renting a place, you are very, very, very well protected. I did, in theory, because you cannot be removed from the house unless you are like clearly, problematic. If you like wreck the place, or if you don't pay rent, stuff like that, or if the landlord can show proof that he needs the place to himself or herself as in an emergency. That's basically the only times a landlord can force you out. Neither of those things was the case because he wanted to sell it, and I'm a model renter. I'm pretty quiet, and I pay my rent. So we talked about that. I let him know through email. Like I drafted up a formal email to say that I disagreed with it and that I wasn't going to leave on such short notice. Then started a whole process of him trying to make deals with me, which is a good thing, because you can of course make a deal like, okay, I'll give you this much time if you agree to it, but you don't have to agree to it, obviously. And so we couldn't make a deal about that because I wasn't gonna leave, especially with no compensation. And it ended up being escalated to us finding a mediator. Mediator is someone I got through the legal office. Basically, you can apply for a free mediator if you like a civil dispute and you don't want to escalate it to like a lawsuit yet. So I contacted this mediator and she came by and we had a 3-hour conversation in which the landlord was extremely, extremely aggressive. And this is where I'll talk about some of the things that he did when he realized that I wasn't, able to just up and leave. He took away my internet access. At first he was just threatening with it, but eventually he did, even though we had a verbal agreement, which is legally binding, that the internet was included with the rent. He basically turned off the router, which meant I had no internet, and he took away the washing machine and the dryer, which again was a verbal agreement that I would be using those for, included with the rent, and the use of the shed for my bicycle, because otherwise I would have to be out on the street, basically. and of course the whole toilet issue. And during that talk with the mediator, it was made really clear that he could easily turn on the internet, or he could easily give me access to this and that, but he said, like, I'm not gonna fix this because I want to force you out, basically, which is, of course, not a smart thing for him to say, and it's something that he said on email too, and like texting and stuff like that. It had plenty of proof, so to speak, and but the thing with the mediator is everyone that was a part of that conversation had to sign an NDA. That's just how it works. So for the remainder of the dispute, we couldn't like use anything that was talked about there in like any legal thing. Of course, it's resolved now, so that doesn't go anymore. But basically, she wouldn't be able to serve as a witness. And what he also wanted me to do was, he was like, you should just move to this place, like this other town that's like it is definitely cheaper, but it's crime-ridden and just a dangerous part of this area that I, of course, didn't want to live in. And he kept pushing that, and he was extremely like aggressive. Like, he was threatening, and even after the mediation conversation led nowhere, he would constantly make aggressive remarks and insinuations, to the point that I eventually had to go to the police, and I had to kind of make a report, so I would have everything on file. And the police, of course, told me, like, unless he, tells you I'm gonna do this or that, or if he actually does something that would harm me, physically, like, they can't go out and arrest him, obviously, but I just wanted to have it on file. And they also noted down my address and number, so if I made a call from my place, they would know what's up, and they would send like a priority team. But needless to say, it was like really bad. And on top of that, having no internet, so I wasn't able to do what I want. Like, this is like making videos and my channel and everything, and being in contact with everyone. It's like, that's what I've chosen to be my life, and I take so much joy out of it, and it's my job, and it's everything, and to not be able to do that felt very isolating. And with just everything that was going on, I wanted to get out of there so badly. And I didn't mention this, but of course I was like looking constantly every day. I was reaching out to people, checking ads. I was just constantly on the ball. I went to the town hall. I tried explaining the entire situation. I got my doctor to write a letter of like recommendation for getting urgency, because I was not okay there. And I thought that was bad, but it got way worse. So, well, some of the issues were, I could kind of have like a sort of semi-solution for it. For example, my dad would, like, bless his heart, he would pick me up, and he would have me, I would be able to have my laundry done at his place. And when he would pick me up, it was a further travel then than it is now. I live close to my dad's now. I would take my laptop and everything that I had, filmed or managed to record, I would upload at his place, using his Wi-Fi. And unfortunately I wasn't able to stay there because they changed my old room, so but again, of course, I wanted my own place. And my mom, she lives all the way in the other side of the country now, so yeah, it got way worse. So for a time it was just me in the house, and then I had a new renter, a roommate, and this roommate was the best friend of the landlord's daughter. And we'll call her Sana because that's her name, and she is the most unpleasant person that I've ever had the displeasure of spending any time with. I tried to make a good start. I introduced myself. I offered to make like a schedule for cleaning of the communal spaces, and told her if she needed any help with moving or like getting settled in, let me know. I was just gonna be nice, like I always am to anyone. And at first, she was like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." It was all fine, but it wasn't very long after until I realized that the landlord might have done it on purpose, because why gotta put a new renter in your place unless, when you're trying to sell it and you're trying to get out the other person. This girl, Sana, was such a bitch. Like, every little thing that I would do, she would comment on it. She would say that I'm gross and disgusting and dirty, and she would make up all these lies and stories about me and text me these gross things, because I had given her my number because I was like, because one time she went out running and she forgot her key and she rang the doorbell and I had to open up for her, and I was like, "Oh, here, take my number in case you get locked out again. If I'm out, like maybe if I'm close by, I can come by and open the door for you," something like that. She would constantly have these parties in weekends and make a total mess of the place. There were always strangers in the house. There were strange men over, and many of the recordings that I tried to make in that time have just the deafening sound of her fucking like 5 times a day, like constantly, like the moaning and the slapping on it. It was, no hate, but like it's annoying. So yeah, she would have strange men over. It wasn't safe. And on top of that, when I would walk in the hallway, she would yell some nasty shit at me, and I was just so done. I was so done living there. I really felt tormented just being there. And I'm bad at telling the story because I'm bad at like telling stories that make sense like this, but I hated her. And I've been away now, so like now it's whatever, but at the time I wanted to strangle her. Like, there were times I was like, if she says one more thing, I swear to God I'll hit her. I never hit her. I never said anything back. I just ignored it. But eventually my dad ran across a guy who was like a middleman for renting out houses, and he happened to ask him, "Do you have anything? My daughter's looking." He had something. I was the first to apply. I got the place. My dad rented out a van. We moved everything in about 3 days because I've got too much stuff. And this place is nice. It's a little bit smaller. I'm sharing a kitchen and a bathroom with 2 other girls. They're really nice. There's no drama. There's no stress. It's quiet. I've got all my things that I need here. So, it just, it really took a chunk out of my life, filled with stress and not being able to do what I wanted. My camera is dying. So, I guess this last part will be audio only. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna wrap it up though. Hi, this is Lisa from the future, quickly interjecting. Because my camera was dying, I tried to wrap it up a little bit too quickly. But part of me moving out was also, eventually I did come to a deal with the landlord, where we agreed on a certain term by which I would have moved out, and that was in exchange for like an undisclosed sum, which is actually quite common. Generally, renters will offer a certain amount of money, even like if you rent from like a bigger company, it's pretty common practice. So eventually we did come to that deal after I put my lawyer on it, who wrote him letters. So that's also why I was able to get this place, which is a little bit more expensive. I just felt like it was fair to mention that we didn't come to a deal in the end. So, okay. This really was a rant and a half, but I'm in a much better place, literally and mentally as well. Like I said, it really took quite a lot out of me, and while of course I didn't have the internet and just a general feeling of unsafety in my own place, and of course literally not being wanted there, I really pulled myself down into a bad, mental state, and it's been hard to kind of pick that, big shit back up and get myself like working again on a schedule. But I'm slowly working on that, and I am confident that I will get back to the level that I was at a year ago, where I was putting out consistent content. I was on top of my stuff, and yeah, I'll get back there. But now of course first I've got my vacation, which I'm really looking forward to just be away from it all and not have to worry about anything, and really allow myself some time to recover and to be around people that I care a lot about. And hopefully after that I'll be able to spend a lot more time with you guys, because you are also